Hi, today I'll be making a quick video to show you how to make a test swatch. Now, test swatches are helpful for you to determine which technique you would like to use for your work. So here is my 4-color test swatch for a particular yarn I use a lot, which is called Wool-like from Michaels here in the US. And so you can see the different techniques. I have stopped at the change halfway in each pattern. So you can see at the change how this is different. You can see the different backgrounds. You can see how relatively thick they are. I didn't change the stitch size throughout, so you can optimize the stitch size for each technique, but this just gives you how it is relative to the other one. So you can see this one kind of has groups of ribbing here, like 2 sections of 2. This next one is tighter and it's on a different needle. Now this is pretty tight, this background kind of wavy. So we're gonna do a test swatch. Well, I'm gonna do a test swatch for 2-color. I have a 4-ply test swatch, which I made after watching the, this is like one of my first things. This is what I made after watching the Passap net videos, the original instructions for the e6000. And this was 4-ply. And I've decided to use this, essentially a 3-ply, I guess, which I use a lot. It's the thinnest available, decent price yarn available in the US at regular stores or to order quickly. So let's get started. So I'm going to use the console here and I'm going to do a cast on. I'm going to hit program. That's the triple arrow button. Then I'm going to hit enter for program. Erase. We're going to go ahead and erase what's in there. Cast on. I am going to use cast on number 2, tubular cast on. For double bed. Cast on 2, enter. Is that all stitch patterns? No. Stitch pattern A. So I looked through the book and looked for one that was relatively interesting, just because, you know, don't want it to be boring to look at. If you don't need it to be. Like, that one's pretty boring. And but geometric, so that you can tell like how relatively squashed or stretched out each stitch pattern is. So I chose this one. I was also thinking of doing this one, but I just like the look of this one a little better. So I'm going to do 1151. So 1151. Alter, no. Direction, oops, I hit enter, I'm sorry. So just ignore that, hit the wrong button, that was paying attention. Gonna hit no, add, no. And so it just brings me back to it. I just said no on each of those. So knit technique, what are we gonna use? So the easiest way to keep track of what's what is to just go in order of what's in the book. So I'm not gonna do the single bed options with this. Those are going to have floats on the back, and I want to just keep that separate from the ones that aren't going to have the floats on the back. That's going to be 180 and on. So you can see how many we want to do. You know. So we're going to start with 180 here. So knit technique was 180. Enlarge, position, no. Test, no. All stitch patterns, yes. Form, no. Left needle. It is a 40 stitch pattern, but yeah, I like things to be symmetrical, OCD-ish, I guess. So I'm actually going to do, left is going to be 21, 21 minus, enter, right, and then 20, so that that's going to repeat this extra empty column. It'll look symmetrical. just for fun. And so the right was 20, sorry. Start cast on, I hit enter, start position, move it over, align the little arrow on the lock with the comb to the right of stitch needle 89. Enter, cast on, enter, because I'm doing the cast on here. So SX, GX, empty row. And I'm going to bring the pushers up before I go through here for left 21 to right 20. Okay, racking handle down. It's down. Check my needles. Looks good. Empty row. Check the needles. Now I'm going to put some needles up. I'm going to put up the 40 in between. That way, like one of the edges, I generally do that for making blankets so that the edge stitches on the back on the right or on the left aren't going to show through. I will break the needle rule, but I think we will survive. So needles are good. Color 1. Stitch size. So here I am going to do this starting with stitch size 2 on the front and the back. Orange strippers, I have those in. LX on the front and on the back. Okay, get the yarn. Row count 0. So it's telling me that. And let's go. 1 row. It was tight. They kind of pop. Sometimes they pop up at the end. I'm going to put those down. Stitch size, we change it now. I'm going to go 3.5. Front and back. And then CX. Oh yeah, LX, sorry. CX just on the back. When I do it without the console, I'll have to change it to, I have to have CX on the front. Edge springs, yeah, might as well. Why not? Last edge spring is hiding. Oops, I over-tightened that. I'll loosen that. Sorry, just gotta do this quickly. Oh, it's getting caught in the camera. That's what's going on here. Sorry. Okay. I won't pull it so far it doesn't get caught in the camera. Let's fix that again. Okay. So, change it. Now we're going to do 2 rows. Make sure my yarn is okay. Okay. And sometimes it gets really tight. What I do here is if I'm not using a cast on comb, it gets tight on this cast on. I am holding the yarn. I took it off from securing it. I'm just holding it by hand underneath. So it's going to let out a little bit more slack. And then it can actually do it. Oops. So, going to do 2 rows, so 1 more. Going to hold it still. Do the next row. Okay. Change stitch size, main stitch size for the knitting. I'm going to do 5 1/4. And I'm actually on the front, and I'm actually going to do 475 on the back. I like the back to be a little bit more prominent than, the front to be a little more prominent than the back. So I'm going to have a little slightly larger stitch size so that it's just a little bit more prominent. So, okay, that's on the back. Okay, and on the back, row counter 3. So we can just do a few rows here after we end the cast on. So I'm just going to do like, okay, so that's pretty good. Now I'm going to hit ABC, stitch pattern A, enter SX on the front, GX on the back. And once an empty row, so I'm going to drop the yarn off. And not pick up the next one. I had the color changer on automatic, the first set for 2 colors. So I turned that, pushed that one back down. So now I'm going to do an empty row. Racking handle down. Check the needles and everything. Looks good here. Empty row. Okay, needles. Now it says pushers. So we're going to look at the pushers. Double bed bird's eye here. So we're going to use this tool and put the pushers up in an alternating fashion and make sure all the other pushers are down out into the rail, out of work completely into the rail, so that they're not going to be pushed up by the arrows that we're going to use. So I'm going to open my rail and push these down. And I was on a roll, so I just did a few too many there. Keep those out. And then push those down. Okay, so it doesn't really matter which way you start, up or down. So I'm just going to start with the first one up. And so there's 40 on the back and 41 on the front. So you will have up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay, so we check the pushers. 2 colors. We're going to need the first color, and the second one popped up, so I'm going to have to redo. Yeah, I'm going to hit it again. Now I have the correct color. The background color goes first on this. Unless they specifically tell you you have to alternate, you do the background color first, whichever one you want on the background. Okay, stitch size. I am going to keep it at 5 1/4 and 475 on the back. Orange strippers, I have those. I might also switch to blue if it gets pretty, if it doesn't look like it's knitting well, because this is thicker yarn. LX on the front and BX on the back with both arrows. So I'm going to say how many rows I'm going to go to. So this pattern is 40 rows high, and I think I might only go half the motif. So I might only go up to 20, and that is going to be 4 rows for each line. So it's going to be 80 rows on this pattern. So most of these patterns is going to be 80 rows. So when you get to like pin tucks, where you're going to do additional rows, so your ratio is going to be off. It'd be 6 rows per line, so it would actually be 120 instead. Or here, 8 rows per line, so so that would be 160. Here, 10 rows per line, 200 rows. So if I decide to do the pin tucks, if this is doing the pin tucks well, this yarn's a little thick, so I might not do the pin tucks. But if it's going well, then I would only do the first pin tuck on this. Then it would be 6 rows per motif line. So I'm on row count 6 on the console. I reset it to 0 here, so I'm going to do 80 here, which is going to be 86 on the console. Okay. And I'm going into the color changer. It doesn't specify going into the color changer, but we're not going to do another 2 rows of the same color here. So I am using the auto color. I have the black levers pressed down together for the first 2 eyelets. I have it set to 2. And so it's automatically alternating between these 2 colors for me. And I'm just watching the yarn to make sure that the tension mask thingies don't pop up too high and aren't too low, aren't getting close to the bottom and aren't going too high where they're not putting tension back on the yarn. Okay, that's 80.